On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Left Hand Path by Entombed. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Cale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today, we're going back to 1990 for some classic Swedish death metal.
Indeed.
One of the big albums that established Scandinavian death metal and Swedish death metal as a thing. The archetype for Stockholm.
Yeah, this is more
Swedish death metal.
The STH sound. Yeah.
Yes, this is the Buzzsaw guitar tone, the maxed out HM2s. And I normally, I'll say this off the bat, normally I think that the HM2 Buzzsaw sound is something that takes a certain amount of finesse. It takes the right riffs or the right other effects on it for me to really dig it.
Right.
And these boys got it right.
They did.
This is because it's one of those things where I think newer bands that sometimes use the HM2 use it wrong.
Right.
Where the production is too good for the HM2. In a sense, it sounds too clean. There's not enough fuzz on top of the just gnarly tone that comes out of that pedal.
Because this was recorded on tape, obviously. Yeah,
this was 1990, and this album sounds great. This is not a low quality album. This is good, high quality stuff. So we'll talk more about it later on. First, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. My cat is next door.
At the vet clinic.
Right.
You pointed the opposite direction from the vet clinic.
I don't know where I am right now. It's
I was
over
just
here.
I was just like, what's she doing across? There's a pond across the street.
She's over at George's
that
RV.
way. Yeah.
She's
she's at Core.
Yeah, she's at Core. Yeah. She's a three-legged cat. Really, if you're being honest, she's a 3.5-legged cat.
Yes.
And she had that
are you bringing it down to 3 1/4?
Bringing it closer to 3 1/4. Because she would bleed all over the place.
Yeah.
Because she would whack this her
stump on the ground.
Yeah. And there would be blood, and we're worried about getting infection. We're worried about her being in pain all the time.
Yeah, so that's not cool.
So she went to sleep. She's gonna. It was funny. A month ago, we had her fixed, and she came home and she was high as fuck, and and she went to their water dish with has a little picture of a fish at the bottom of it, and she put both paws into it. Splash, 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 splash. What are you doing? Are you okay?
I think I need to get a new water dispenser for my cat because I'm pretty sure it leaks and has for a while.
Oh, no.
It's on top of linoleum, so nothing's getting damaged or anything. But there's a big, I guess. You wouldn't really call it a stain. You can tell that many a puddle of water has sat in this spot and evaporated because there's, whatever minerals were in that water now lay atop the linoleum, and I gotta go wipe that off. But there's this puddle that just keeps on ending, about a foot away from the water dispenser. It's not, and usually there's no trail attaching it. And I'm just like, what? This is not cat piss, because Zima never has accidents. She's very good about using her cat box. It's like, what the fuck is this? It's just water. Where is it coming from? And I think the floor there is sloped somewhat such that it flows down and settles in this spot. And then the trail evaporates, leaving just the puddle and no sign of where it had come from. Also, the cap on the water tank has been kind of broken for a while.
Oh no!
I have it taped on there essentially because it's got a little nub where when it presses against the bottom of the dish itself, it lifts up and the water comes out.
Sure, I have one of those for vacations.
The ring that holds the nub in place is completely detached from the threads. And I have it secured via tape, which has worked just fine so far. But there's a pet store literally 100 feet away.
Right. You could walk there and not get winded.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
I guess it is uphill.
It is. Yeah, that's the real big, is that it's uphill. Yeah. No, I could certainly go up there and just get another water dish, but I haven't done it. There's a lot of things. I was doing good for a while. I was doing good. I was making my bed every day. I was keeping my dishes out of the sink. Nice. I was doing good for a while. And then I changed fucking positions at work, and it just destroyed the routine that I had built up.
Right, because you have to do that. It has to be a routine.
And now I got to force myself back into it. Because I was like, okay, you can be bad for a little while you're getting used to this new situation, buddy. But then we're going to get back to it, and we're going to be good with our habits again. And I haven't gotten back to it, and it's been over a month. So I need to get back on the adult grind. That doesn't sound good at all.
Well,
no, that's
maybe
bad.
It sounds good.
On the adulting grind?
The adultery grind.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't think I qualify for adultery.
Well, you could help someone else in their adultery.
Oh, that's I didn't think about that. I could definitely.
You could poach a married lady.
No, I don't think that's happening.
No,
they have to be real desperate.
Wait a minute. Okay, you didn't put a pronoun at the beginning
they.
of that. Oh, they. Okay.
Said they.
I wasn't sure. Have to be real desperate. You would have to be desperate, or they have to be desperate?
They would have to be desperate. I started playing a new game. I don't really know how well I like it so far. It's called Disco Elysium.
Disco Elysium.
Okay. It's got a really interesting concept. I have two friends who are really, really, really into it. And it seems on paper like it's got a whole bunch of stuff I should really like. But there's just things about it that make me kind of glance off of it every time I try and play it. So the basic concept is you are in this world that's called Elysium.
Right.
That there's things about, I don't know much about the world at this point because
there was a movie called Elysium.
It's nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Nothing to do with that at all.
Okay.
I think he's a Finnish crime novelist.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if he's strictly speaking a crime novelist, but he's a writer that wrote this game. And you play as a detective who at the start of the game does not know he's a detective.
Really?
Because he has recently gotten so drunk he's forgotten literally everything. Who he is, where he is, when he is.
How can you get that drunk?
I'm sure there'll be some explanation, but this is a very psychological game. It's not meant to. I don't think that's meant to be taken as realistic. It's just in his mind. He thinks that's what happened. It's true though. He legitimately does not remember anything.
Sure, but he believes that it's from having gotten too drunk.
Yes. There may be some other reason, but in the first few hours of the game, you find out that your name is Harry Dubois. You are a detective in the Revachol.
He's very Finnish, Harry Dubois.
Yeah. Well, this takes place in the city of Revachol, which used to be the capital of the world. Of this world, which is called Elysium.
Okay.
This is a fictional world.
Okay, so he's not really from Finland.
So Revachol is extremely multicultural.
Sure.
There's everybody has a different accent basically. There's tons of people with like French accents. There's people with Japanese accents. There's all kinds of
foppish dandies.
Extremely multicultural city. That's also very run down. There was this big revolution that happened and then it fell apart and all sorts of things happen in the world. But the main thing is that you are a detective and you recently...
Detective novelist.
No, that's the guy who wrote the game. Is the detective novelist.
Okay. All right.
Not the character.
Okay.
You are actually a detective.
In the game.
And you basically have as far as I know, there's only one main crime to solve. There's tons of little side quests. This is a isometric RPG.
Sure.
With no combat. It's just
really
dialogue and skill checks.
Neat.
And it's so well written, but on the other hand, everything takes so fucking long. That's the part that I glance off of. I felt like I felt, because you awaken in a earth-shattering hangover.
Sure.
Because you recently got so drunk you forgot literally everything.
Right.
You awaken in a destroyed hotel room, which is just outside of the crime scene that you were sent to investigate 7 days ago. That you have not begun. There's a man who's been hanging by his neck
for 7 days,
dead from this tree for a week, because you decided to have a midlife crisis, and also Revachol is a shithole.
Right.
But the one of the main mechanics that sets this game apart is the thought cabinet, which is when you choose certain dialogue options or hear things from other characters, you will get a little prompt in this section, this menu, where you can internalize certain thoughts and opinions. It's part of the idea of that you are this blank slate of a person, where you can, if you hear an idea about the world or people who live in it, you can internalize that, make that a part of your personality, and that affects your checks going forward. So there's one that's like radical feminism. There's another one that's like communism or capitalism or like all these different ideologies that you can internalize and make a core part of your new personality because you're starting fresh. Sure.
Presbyterianism, stuff like that.
There's almost certainly something like that. I've not gotten it's taken me 5 hours of gameplay just to get the fucking body out of the tree.
Wow.
Things take a long time. You also realize upon waking up that you have lost your badge and your gun, which is a big fucking deal. Mostly because the police department does not hand out those things like they're nothing, like they're candy, unlike some places like the United States. But so you've lost your gun and your badge, and that's a big deal. And you have to go and find those, all while being assisted by the wonderful Lieutenant Kim Kitsuragi, who is the most patient man in the world. He's been assigned as your partner for this case. And when you come up just like, what is this? How? What is any of this? He's just like, I was told you were having some trouble right now. Your precinct informed me that you were having some sort of a crisis. So I'll see what I can. He's very, very, very patient. There's also the two most annoying children in the history of video games, that one of whom is posted up throwing rocks at the dead body. And they're just horrible, 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 horrible little monsters, and I despise them.
Like children in general.
Yes, but or yes and but not so much. No, but these two in particular were just terrible. As these two awful 12-year-olds, and you cannot make them go away. I thought maybe I could. If you can, in order to try and get the body down from the tree, you can propose shooting it down with Kim's gun. And he hands you his gun. He gives it a shot and fails, and he hands it to you.
Literally gives it a shot and fails.
Yeah, and hands it to you. All the while, one of the kids just won't shut the fuck up. So in a moment of just like hoping that these kids would see a gun pointed at them and run away, I pointed the gun at one of them, and they just fucking laughed and basically said, "You don't have the fucking balls." And they were right. There is apparently a skill check that will allow you to shoot at this kid. It's a legendary skill check that requires you to it rolls D6s. Every check is like 2d6s. And it's I think a legendary check requires you to get like at least an 11.
Okay.
Plus, whatever you have in the relevant skill. Anyway, it's just I couldn't shoot the kid, but it's just like no fear whatsoever. Like these are like horrible little street urchins essentially.
And so you actually tried to murder a child.
Yeah, I didn't try to. I wasn't going to actually shoot the kid.
Yeah.
It was
but
just
you did a skill check anyway.
I didn't do this.
Oh,
I
okay,
couldn't. I could have attempted it, but it was like 98% chance of failure.
Sure.
I wasn't going, and I wouldn't have clicked it anyway. I was just hoping that these kids would shut the fuck up. They did not. But like the first time I tried playing this game, I felt like Harry with his horrible hangover because I was just like, what even is any of this? Why does everything take so long? This is giving me a headache. I think I'm easing into it a little bit more, but it's just kind of like, on the complete opposite spectrum of just like, yeah, shoot things, goblin brain happy. I've been replaying Halo 5's campaign for the first time in years.
Nice.
And it's a well-made game. I just wish the writing was not so trash for the campaign. Like, I really like the multiplayer. Multiplayer's good. It's fun. It's good. Got good game mechanics. But the story of the campaign, I just very much disagree with the direction that they took. There were more interesting things they could have done, and they didn't do that. But because recently I've played through most of them with my buddy Matt on Twitch on stream. We played through all of them on Legendary, but Halo 5 is not on PC yet.
Halo 5 is not on PC yet. Yeah. It's a 6-year-old game.
I know. Especially, well, like none of the other ones were on PC until last year.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Except, I guess Halo 1 and 2 had PC releases when they came out.
I suppose
originally,
Xbox had to communicate with the Windows people. And that was a bit difficult.
I know the joke you're making, but that's really what's been happening over the last couple of years. Is they've kind of been moving away from Xbox as a completely independent thing from the rest of the company and been moving more towards the two of them being integrated with each other so that certain Xbox services like Game Pass, for example, $10 a month and you get hundreds of free games.
Wow.
That is available on PC now. Like they've been trying to do that sort of thing. And so the Master Chief Collection, which came out in 2014 originally and was an Xbox One exclusive, has been available on Steam starting last year sometime. Or I think it was September of 2019 is when that started.
If you pay the $10 a month?
No, it's just on Steam.
Okay.
So $40. It is on Game Pass for PC. I think that's kind of a more recent thing. I don't think I still have Game Pass. I had it so I could play The Outer Worlds without having to use the Epic Store because I didn't want to use the Epic Store, even though I already had a couple of games. I didn't want to continue supporting the business model of Epic offering game studios a big lump of money to have it be available exclusively on their service, because that happened with Borderlands 3, it happened with Metro Exodus, and then it happened with The Outer Worlds, of them being exclusive on the Epic Store and not available on Steam for like a year for each of those games. Which I think that's just a really shitty business practice. But you can go ahead and close the window.
I was kind of enjoying the breeze.
Oh, well, I heard it was hitting your microphone. There, yeah, just have it open a crack.
Just a crack.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of a shitty thing to do. But so anyway, now the whistling is distracting me.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I have Steam on my laptop. I have it running. I need to just get rid of it. Not because Steam is a bad product or anything like that.
You just don't use it.
I don't use it because the laptop is 12 years old.
Yeah.
And it runs Windows 3.1.
What are you going to put on? What are you going to download?
What game am I going to download off of Steam on that computer?
Hey, if you got Game Pass, you could get Doom 64. or Doom 1 and 2. Those are both on Game Pass, I'm pretty sure, because Bethesda got bought up by Microsoft. And so now a bunch of Bethesda games are on Game Pass.
Is Skyrim on Game Pass?
I don't think so.
No?
I think Skyrim and Fallout 4, I don't believe are on Game Pass. I'm pretty sure Bethesda probably made a deal about that. Like, hey, people are still buying these games. So
they're old, but they're oldies, but goodies.
Yeah, people are still purchasing these games actively. So let's not put them on this free service because we will make more money by having them here. Whereas if they wouldn't get my money that way. Microsoft would get my money if those games were on there, because then I would get a Game Pass subscription.
Sure.
And they would get my $10 a month, and then I could get Fallout 4 and Skyrim basically for free on my PC.
I still have Fallout 4 at home.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't belong to me.
Yeah, that's Quinn's, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Quinn's. I sent him a picture of it. It was like the week before he went into boot camp. And I said, hey, this is still at my house. He said, I'll have to stop by next week and pick it up. And that was in
and he never did.
February, yeah.
I mean, there was a chair that he supposedly wanted that he never picked up, so now it's just in my kitchen.
I hope he's okay.
I mean, he's probably still in that point where he's not really allowed to talk to people that like. I mean, he's probably out of boot camp at this point, but like, basically, isn't there a thing in boot camp where, I mean, before cell phones, I guess, were a thing, but weren't really. There were cell phones when you were in Navy.
No,
the Navy boot camp.
I didn't know anybody who had a cell phone.
Okay.
That was in 1992.
They existed. It was the big blocky 80s cell phones, but
only assholes had them.
Yes. But like, I think now, I think there's a period when you join the military where you're not allowed outside communication or something like that. So yeah, I hope
also a vow of silence.
Yeah, soldiers known for taking a vow of silence because that really, allows you to conduct effective military operations by not talking to each other.
That's where the word infantry comes from.
I thought infantry referred to child soldier.
No, it refers to it's derived from the word infans, which means speechless. That's where the word infant comes from.
Oh.
Someone who cannot speak.
Are we sure it specifically refers to the origin of the word infant, did infant come from infantry, or did infantry come from infant?
I think they both came from the root infans.
L'enfance terrible.
I might be wrong about this. I've been wrong before, but I think I'm right.
I've always heard it as child soldier in the sense of like in the Middle Ages, for example,
they put
mounted
kids with swords.
I mean, that probably happened, but generally speaking, I think a mounted knight who was like a landowner probably thought of common people as being like children, essentially. Perhaps that's where the term. I don't know either. I'm also talking out of my ass.
I actually heard it somewhere.
I'm surprised it has that much diction. My ass. I'm surprised it can form words so well.
Sure, it's very well spoken.
It's a very well spoken ass, but it's still an ass, and shit comes out of it sometimes.
Figuratively and literally.
Mostly literally. Anyway, you want to talk about this album?
I'd love to.
So, Left Hand Path, 1990 album by ENTOMBED. ENTOMBED.
I actually got this album at the same time I got Wolverine Blues. I got them both at the same time.
Okay.
So it means I didn't really get into Entombed like right away. It wasn't until the mid 90s.
Wolverine Blues referred to as like
the comic book character.
Yeah, Wolverine's just sad. Yeah. His Logan long before Logan came out.
Yeah.
This is a movie about Hugh Jackman being sad and angry. Mostly angry.
Yeah.
Mostly angry.
I loved that movie. It was good.
Logan's a damn fine movie.
I'd love to show it to my kids, but they're not old enough yet.
Yeah, it's also an extremely violent movie. Anyway, so Left Hand Path came out in 1990. You got this at the same time as their Wolverine Blues is their follow-up to this, right?
No, that was their third album, I believe.
Okay, so this was a few years after the fact. If you don't know what Left Hand Path refers to, I think it's specifically, Left Hand Path specifically refers to Baphomet. Baphomet? Is it Baphomet or Baphomet?
It's Baphomet.
Baphomet. Because he's got the one hand that's up in the air.
Right.
One hand that's pointed down low. The right hand is up. That's the high road. Left hand is down. That's the low road.
Right. The left-hand path.
That's, you're gonna be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. I think there's more philosophical implications. I just don't have the mental energy.
Basically, it's you're going to be a Satanist.
Yeah, basically I think in the Gnostic and or I guess later developed into LaVeyan idea of Satanism as you don't worship the devil, but you worship yourself in a sense. You are your own deity in a sense.
Did you watch that movie? I can't remember.
I still have not seen. What is the name of the movie? The documentary.
Right. It's got a question mark.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. That's it.
Hail Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was called. Yeah, I still have not watched that. I meant to, and then I forgot about it for a while. I need to go and do it. I do think that I know the conclusion of the movie is that they did get the statue put up.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a bittersweet sort of ending because, they got the statue put up, but also the point of the protest was to not have religion in the state capitol in the first place.
Right, that was what they were hoping would happen. And go, let's just take them all down.
You're right. Yeah, we can't have religion in the state capitol. I mean, part of it was either have nothing or all of them. So I guess the all of them is not bad. If the state capitol made a caveat of like, okay, if I was going to say if Muslims ask for that, then sure. But generally they don't ask for that sort of thing because they don't have, unlike
graven images.
They don't. Mosques don't really have an altar or anything like that, generally speaking, because they don't have any kind of iconography to speak of.
Right, not that kind. Right. Right, and it's weird because
they will pray wherever. They just have mosques as a place to hang out.
It's a community center.
It's a community center.
And it's funny they had that you can't, like, obviously they get pissed when you draw Muhammad.
Yes,
and they can't do that. But the funny thing is, it also says that in the Christian Bible.
Yeah, it's just Christians, don't give a shit.
Right.
Basically, they don't know how to stick to. If there's one thing that I've learned is that people who are really, really, really into Christianity also are really not into sticking to their guns. Or I shouldn't say that.
Their guns.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. They're really into picking and choosing exactly pieces of scripture that they prefer.
Right. Yeah.
So,
gee, guys, you really talk about fags a lot. Why is that your go-to issue? Aren't there lots of other things? I ate shellfish today. Why doesn't God hate me for that?
There's half a verse about it in the whole Bible. Meanwhile, here's an entire chapter about God talking about the buying and selling of slaves.
I don't know.
I'm again talking out of my ass.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the last time I read anything out of a Bible. So maybe I should shut up, libtard. Getting real into it all of a sudden. Anyway, let's talk more about Entombed. So
they're Sweden.
They're from Sweden. They're from Stockholm, I believe.
Yeah.
Certainly this is the Stockholm death metal sound.
Right. It does not sound like the
Gothenburg sound.
The Gothenburg, yeah.
Which the Swedish death metal sound, the Stockholm death metal sound is characterized by just gnarly riffs and the use of heavy distortion, namely the buzzsaw kind of sound.
Right.
And generally an emphasis on trending more towards the lo-fi end of things. It's dirty, it's gnarly, it's gross, death metal.
This is not lo-fi.
This is not.
No.
But it's certainly got the much gnarlier tone, especially compared to something that you would hear coming out of the Gothenburg scene.
Sure.
Later on, which that's the birth of melodic death metal.
Right.
There. which became cleaner and more theatrical in its presentation.
Like you listen to the first In Flames album and the most recent In Flames album, and you'd be hard pressed to tell it's the same band at all.
I still haven't listened to that Insomnium album, by the way. That's a Finnish band, but they're definitely melodic death metal.
Very good.
I need to. Those are the guys who do. Those are the actual people behind Beelzebubs.
Right.
So I need to listen to that here. It's that band, Beelzebubs, also is apparently, I think, working on new material.
Nice. This year?
It's probably, I don't know. They have some like 3D animated concert they've been putting together.
Like Tupac.
Ever since COVID started, because they were going to do a whole bunch of like big festivals. Probably the guys from Insomnia putting on the corpse paint of the characters from the comic book.
Sure.
But they were going to do like tours, and then COVID happened. And so they've been trying to figure out how can we, as these cartoon characters, do a show online. And then they're like, well, what if we could do like a live motion capture sort of thing? Because that sort of technology has become more and more and more feasible over the last couple of years, especially after like the whole VTuber thing. Do you know what that is?
No.
Essentially, certain programs in webcams and whatnot can essentially track your facial movements and your body movements and superimpose like a 3D character on top of you. So people, usually it's cute anime girls.
Sure.
Is what a lot of VTubers do. They're very, very popular overseas. They're very popular.
Sounds a little creepy.
They're very popular with a certain crowd in the United States. Most of them are just perfectly normal, like, Let's Play YouTubers. It's just also cute anime girl and probably a cute Japanese girl behind that. But that way you can keep yourself anonymous while still having some sort of digital avatar to interact with the chat and whatnot that people can see. It's the psychology of it. There's probably something to be taken away from it. I don't know. Generally, it doesn't seem super weird.
If Sigmund Freud were here, he'd be going, "Oh shit!"
He would have a fucking field day.
Scheiße. Yeah.
I mean, psychologists in general, I think, there's a lot for psychologists to chew on in the modern era. There is a lot to take a look at.
What was the name of the girl that was selling her bathwater?
Belle Delphine.
Belle Delphine, yes. I remember seeing her for a few seconds and going, well, there's something very intriguing about her. And then like a few seconds later going, no.
Oh, yeah. Let's get off this topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Did this slap?
Hell yeah, it slaps.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it does.
And we did mention the reason I wanted to talk about this.
Oh, yeah. LG Petrov passed away a little over a month ago.
Right. And I just found out about it last week.
And he was previously the drummer for a band called Nihilist, I think.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Maybe it was different. There's a band called Nihilist that members of this band were a member of. LG Petrov, I know,
was a drummer.
Was a drummer and in a band with Dead.
Right.
Who would go on to be in Mayhem.
And then ultimately dead.
Be dead. Yeah. How many times over the history of not this podcast, but just any podcast talking about the history of metal have people made that joke?
I don't know.
It's
got to be a lot.
Ultimately, it's in poor taste, but it's been over 30 years.
Yeah, it's been, almost 30.
Almost. Right around 30 years.
New in 1991, right?
Yeah.
But you got to realize that if the guy was anything like we're made to believe he was like,
not a super cool dude.
Us making jokes about him being dead would probably be up in his wheelhouse.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Supposedly very, very morose kind of person. Anyway, how many times an episode do you think I say anyway? That's my
it's your crutch.
That's my segue. That's my verbal crutch of let's move on.
Anyway.
When I could say, let's move on.
Sure. Do you do it on the radio at all? Do you ever do that? Anyway.
I think so. Not so much, because typically I only have one topic to discuss. Like if I'm reading a story, I often don't need a segue into something else.
What if you segue? That's Josh Turner. Anyway.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I often don't really, I don't have a need for segues, because it's, I might be talking about something for a minute and 10 seconds.
That's tops, extreme tops.
And then move on to, like, I don't need a segue. It's just coming up, weather, more songs. Let's go. That's it.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, I wish. I know DJs aren't really a thing on satellite radio all that much, but it would be fun to be a DJ on satellite radio.
That'd be great. They have DJs on satellite radio.
I feel like it's not so much a thing anymore.
No.
Or someone who might describe themselves as a satellite radio DJ.
Yeah.
I feel like their job is probably very different from ours.
Yeah.
But in any case, that would be fun to just be able to say whatever you want, more or less. I guess you still have advertisers that might get mad, but
right.
The FCC is not breathing down your neck. Theoretically, after 10 o'clock, we could say whatever we want after 10 p.m. But so that's the cutoff, isn't it? The FCC's
10 p.m.
Yeah, 10 p.m. is the FCC's we no longer give a shit cutoff.
Right.
It's just that after that, you also still have advertisers, which is why, like,
we don't.
But like on television,
we should do that. At the end of your voice tracking shift, just pick an hour in the overnight
and just say, like, pick an hour at 3 a.m.
Shit, piss ass balls.
Fuck, motherfucker, cocksucker, and shit. I can't remember the cadence of the 7 dirty words you can't say on television. Right. I can't remember the cadence of that, but I mean, we could end up in a situation that happened to you where it was like 1 or 2 in the morning and you accidentally said a dirty word on the air and
pre-recorded.
And an advertiser was listening.
Yeah. And I was talking about that advertiser.
Exactly. It's like, who the fuck is up that late? I was about to say anyway.
Going forward,
moving on. Back to the topic at hand. I was looking around. I didn't look too hard. It's kind of difficult with older albums to find like aggregated scores.
Sure.
But AllMusic listed this as a 4.5
out of 5.
Out of 5. Yeah, that's a pretty consistent 90. That's a very good score for any album that's not bad. Because again, most of the albums we listen to end up around 80. So this is above our average of albums we listen to, because we like to focus on the good stuff, because we like to enjoy ourselves. We like to have fun and not listen to things that make us miserable.
There are some things that are bad that don't make me miserable.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like The Room. That's a bad movie, but it doesn't make me miserable.
No.
That movie is fun.
Right.
It makes me happy. But this is not like that.
No.
This is good.
This is very good.
And it makes me happy. What's your favorite song on here?
There's the riff that's in Revel in Flesh. That just, for some reason, that just gets to me. That's like the fourth song in the album.
There's a lot of great riffs on here.
There's a lot of great riffs. The last song is really good. I think the name of it.
Is it one of the bonus? So there's two bonus tracks that are on the Spotify version.
Yeah, see, I don't know about the bonus tracks.
Okay. But I put the title track just because
the first track one.
I really like on the really title track the. The first half is great as well, but like the sudden unexpected, because I knew going in like, okay, this is Stockholm death metal. This is going to be kind of, kind of grimy and very, very HM2, very heavy.
Right.
And I was not expecting this very moody, doomy section in the last half of that song. And there's like a keyboard. There's like a John Carpenter keyboard riff in there.
Indeed.
That
like reminds cheap keyboard sound, but it reminds me. Fits.
It reminds me of like The Thing.
Yeah.
Or Halloween is a much better pull for that. Yeah, it's like that sort of keyboard tone. that comes in and is on loop in that part, and with these long drawn out strums on. That's one of the things, like the HM2 sound works really well with death metal and fast and intense death metal, and also works really well, I think, in doom. You add some reverb onto that. Right. You add some extra effects onto it and it works great for doom. Sure. Like if you remember Monolord, when we listened to Monolord. Oh, yeah. Like that's it might not actually be HM2s, but it's very much in that wheelhouse of like maximum fuzz. And it worked really well. I was not expecting something that moody and atmospheric out of this, and that just got me hooked on the rest of it. This album is one I've listened to. I feel like there's a lot of albums where like I listened to them on the day of and I listened to it once and I'm like, whatever. I listened to this on Saturday while I was going for a walk, and then I've just been going back to it over and over again over the last few days. Right. And this is a lot of really, really good stuff. This is the first like straight up death metal thing that I've listened to in a while that has pulled at me. Nice. In any significant way. This is really, really good. In ways that I was kind of not expecting it to be. I wasn't expecting it to be so high quality either and so well produced. And I didn't know this was their first album. This is a very well produced album for the first album from a death metal band in 1990. Right. Like
they'd been playing together for a while.
Yeah. But like a debut album of a death metal band in 1990. Putting the work in to make it sound good.
No, and some pudding.
Oh, come on.
What?
That was a stretch even for you.
Well, you said pudding. You said it twice. You said pudding. Putting the work in. Pudding.
I know, but no. Even for you, that I know how your stomach works and how your brain talks to your stomach. I'm aware, but come on.
Still want some pudding.
Pudding. Does that change it if I had really emphasized the T's?
No, then it just like some kind of douchebag.
I was putting the laundry in the dryer. I'm the foppish dandy.
Doing household chores.
Oh, look at me, Daddy. I'm putting this in the dryer.
Oh, I'm putting the glasses in the dishwasher.
Father, aren't you proud of me? I'm like one of the commoners. This is basically just an episode of Frasier. I've never actually seen an episode of Frasier.
You've never watched Frasier?
I've never actually seen an episode of Frasier, to my knowledge. I just know that part of the joke is that Niles and Frasier are two very, uptight kind of erudite, foppish sort of dudes, and their dad is a crotchety old, traditionalist kind of guy.
Right.
It's just
he's an ex-cop, and
and they're both snobs.
Right.
I know the basic premise of Frasier. I'm just not. I feel like I don't need to see Frasier.
It's one of those things where you don't need to see it, but you probably should watch a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I suppose. I've watched half of Cheers. It's about it. That's the same universe, right? One of the same characters, two of the same characters. I think Lilith had been introduced by the time I stopped watching Cheers.
Right, Baby Newirth plays Lilith in both those shows. Yeah, and I think they all sort of make a cameo.
Yeah, I think every
Norm shows up. And,
yeah. Does Diane ever show up in Frasier?
I think she does. Yes, I think in an episode. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, see, there it is again.
Anyway,
I just my brain is not in great condition tonight. I've just been very tired all day.
So have I.
So what medal are you bestowing upon this Maz Kanata to Chewbacca style?
I feel this is worthy of a gold.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. This is good stuff.
Good stuff. Great riffs. Great sound.
It's a nice album.
It is.
Nice job, guys. And yeah, it's I think it's also a good way to remember LG Petrov. Good. He was a great vocalist.
He was.
I feel like that's worth mentioning. You brought this album because he passed away.
Right.
And we've barely talked about the guy. Very good vocalist.
Very good. He's only 49 years old when he died too.
Yeah, not particularly old. So it's I know I
could have had a lot more,
Yeah. I know I just said like we barely talked about the guy, but I also got reminded of a thing I read about Corpse Grinder I didn't know.
Yeah.
Which is that he is obsessed with claw machines. Like everywhere they go, everywhere they tour, he looks for like arcades and places with claw machines when they've got, time. And everything, like almost everything that he gets out of the claw machines, he donates to like toy charities and stuff. Because it's like my kids, they're teenagers. They don't need stuffed animals. I'm just going to go donate them. And so he's like, by virtue of him being obsessed with claw machines, he's got, he's probably made a shitload of donations because there are so many pictures of him on Instagram where you can see him with an armful of stuffed animals that he has gotten from these claw machines because he's very, very good at them. And I thought that was neat. It was something I didn't know about George Fisher, who continually reveals himself to be a pretty cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw an interview with him here recently, him talking about how he said he learned from Steve D'Souza, who's the vocalist for Exodus.
And did not invent the sousaphone.
No, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sousaphone, yeah. Back in the early 19th century.
Okay. He was like, I'm tired of these tuba guys having difficulty carrying their instruments in marching bands.
And now I'm going to go sing for Exodus.
Yes.
Apparently, he told him, he says, no, you always, the one thing above all else you have the time for is to be cool to the people who came there to see your shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If be an asshole to everyone else, be cool to your fans.
Exactly.
If you're going to be an asshole to anyone,
right.
Don't have it be your fans, the people who gave you money.
Right. And the people who care, people who actually genuinely care about you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of going about that. So next week, we talked about this last time. I'm going to make you. I don't know if make you is really the right.
I'm going to
force you physically to listen to this. I'm going to have you listen to an album that's been talked about on this podcast before.
Okay.
It's called Odyssey to the West. It's by a band called Slice the Cake.
Okay.
It is a very long, very decadent, very indulgent, progressive deathcore album that is, it's a lot to take in.
Sure. So I'm going to need to get me a hard chair with a solid back, a good, comfortable set of headphones.
Possibly. This is meant to be a very heady concept album.
Sure.
At times, to my ear, it ends up being a bit pretentious.
Sure.
But then you get done with, little bits of like, oh, this is really pretentious. And you get into like, oh, wow, that's a really good riff. Oh, the vocals here are really good. It's the lyrics are mostly the thing that gets pretentious because there are parts where the vocalist does spoken word stuff that it's just kind of like, okay, Shakespeare.
Yeah, because I don't know what I was listening to on my Amazon app recently over the last few weeks. And what Amazon the thing is now is that, well, we're done listening to the thing you selected.
Yeah.
Here's some other shit that sounds like that. And
it got to slice the cake.
And I'm listening to them going, oh, yeah.
Was it Kardashev? Was it when you were listening to Kardashev?
Yeah.
I feel like those two bands have a lot of crossover, I think. It's part of why Slice the Cake came to mind after we listened to Kardashev was like, we've listened to that. Let's get into something else that this reminds me of. It's been a couple years since I've talked about it, and it had been a couple of years since I listened all the way through.
Right.
And I was just curious how I feel about it now. So we'll talk more about that.
All right.
Next week. Till we do that, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, if you please. We post episode links there and not really anything else because we don't care about being engaged with you.
We're too cool for that.
We're too cool for you, you square. Otherwise, we're on your podcast app on your iOS device or on Libsyn's The Podcast Source, because they're the people who give us our RSS stuff.
Sure. Well, they don't give it to us. You pay for it.
I pay for it.
Sure.
But, I like to think they're being nice.
Yeah, they are. They're performing a service for money, which is...
Yes, capitalism, the definition of niceness.
Nice. Yeah.
Everyone knows capitalism is nice. Mm-hmm. Anyway, thanks for listening. I had to get one last one in there. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
Anyway.